Hey, welcome back to Hardly Tech. Today we're checking out a classically inspired FPS called Hellbound, inspired by the likes of Doom and Serious Sam, etc., etc. We're going to take a look at performance on the MSI Ventus 3X RTX 3060 Ti. How many acronyms and names do we need for these cards? Jeez. Before we get started, I had to do a little bit of work to get this game running at 4K. There's a problem with this game. I don't know if it's widespread, but I did find that some other people had this issue. The game for me defaulted to 1440p, and nothing I did in the options, changing this setting, or in the INI file itself would change that. Didn't matter what resolution I chose, 720, 1600 by 900, 1080, 4K, it wouldn't change the resolution of the game itself. This would change, but the game ran at 1440p. There's a fix that I found, which I will link to in the description of the video, and I'll type it out in case you don't want to go searching, so that you can get this game running at whatever res you want to play at as well. With that, let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, so here we are in level 2, and I wanted to highlight a couple of things with the graphic settings, just to show off what they do, and what settings I'm using to get what I think is a clean image and good performance. So we're over here by the lava, where you can see a lot of sprites floating up from the lava into the air. Looks pretty good, a lot of detail to it, and as you can see, some of the edges are a bit, jaggy, a little shimmery, but it's not terrible. We're playing here at 4K, frame rate set to the maximum that the game allows, no VSync, and I'm using Grotesque for most of the settings, which is like Ultra. Post-processing, textures, view distance, and effects on Grotesque, shadows on high, bloom on high, and anti-aliasing low. I'll go ahead and turn all the settings up here, except for anti-aliasing. Alright, and as you can see here, not a huge difference. Post-processing looks a little bit thicker, a little fancier, shading looks nicer, but we're already seeing dips below 60. In combat it gets worse, and in areas where there's a lot of these particle effects, it actually drops into the 40s with these settings. But here I wanted to highlight the differences in anti-aliasing. So we go up to medium. Edges look cleaner, but textures and whatnot look a little blurry. And you can see that reflected on the particles as well. You can still see them, but a lot of the detail and the light from them is dimmed. The post-processing looks a little bit blurrier. So let's go up to high. And as you can see, it's a little bit harder to see the particles. You lose a bit of that detail. And again, edges look a little bit cleaner. And now we'll go up to Grotesque. Edge work looks pretty good. It's not quite as blurry on the edges and on textures, but again, we're losing more of those particle effects. You can't see them as well. They're not as defined, they're not as bright. But as you can see, performance doesn't take much of a hit, maybe 1 or 2 FPS like that. So we'll run into a part of the level here that actually does hurt performance a lot. Up close, they look pretty good. Down into the 40s on the frame rate. Otherwise looking pretty decent. And just to show that there's not really much of a frame rate difference, we'll take anti-aliasing back to low. And we gained 2 FPS. But as you can see, the particle effects and the shimmering coming off of the lava look a lot better. So with this one, it's kind of pick your poison. I prefer to play with anti-aliasing on low because I like that extra bit of detail, but you can play it however you want. It's not really going to hurt performance much. Looks good in my opinion. I'm fine with those little bit of jaggies because when you're in motion, you're running around shooting things, you don't really notice it so much. I also take shading down to high, and we gained about 5 FPS there. And if we run back to that same cave where we tanked performance into the 40s, You can see we're maintaining mid-50s. 54 is where I saw, 52, 53. So yeah, we gained about 7 to 8 frames per second on the minimum, which isn't bad, and the game doesn't look much different. You don't lose a lot of shading detail. So anyways, let's jump into some combat and see what happens with these settings here.
In the name of the triple shot, amen.
We're still getting dips down below 50, but I am recording. That's something to keep in mind here. If I wasn't, we'd be getting probably a steady 60. Last time I came through here, it was about 58 up top here. There's a section behind a door with a bunch of enemies that did drop performance a little bit, but nothing big. If you're on a variable refresh display, I don't think you'd even notice the dips into the 50s. So yeah, there we go, 51, 46, ooh. Not the worst though, considering. If you're into old school Doom or Serious Sam, this is the game for you. I'm into those kinds of games. Serious Sam was always fun because it's pretty ridiculous. You know me, I like ridiculous. Couple that with the fast-paced action of Doom and goriness, and I'm hooked. I recommend playing this if you're into them. I think it's worthwhile. There we go. Get them gibs, or jibs if you say it with the G sound. And you get some extra health, armor, or ammo. Ooh, power up. Come on, do this. Yeah. Punk. Nice. Oh no, they're gonna get me. Dang, you did not want to die. Don't understand why. Replenish our health and armor here. I'm generally maintaining 60 FPS at 4K with this 3060 Ti. It's not currently overclocked, but I can overclock and get some frame rate. Get a frame rate boost. Not a ton, but enough to make a difference, around 4 or 5 FPS. I'll go ahead and bump that up now. Alright, so before I had the fan sitting at about 50%. Card was up in the low 60s, but now that I have it overclocked, I've got the fan curve set up to about 70%. And I've got plus 200 on the core and plus 750 on the memory. Performance is a little better. Nothing major, but it does help. Definitely helps keep the minimums up. Fans on this 3060 Ti are definitely louder than the 3060 from Asus. So if you're concerned about noise, well, this card is definitely performant, but the fans are a bit louder. Alright, how do I get up here? I almost missed that jump. Whoa. Calm down, fellas. Ooh. Need all the health I can get. This game is brutal. I'm playing on normal too. On the harder difficulties, it's a bit more challenging. I died a lot, but it's fun. Oh no. Let's funnel him. All the blood and particle effects are causing the frame rate to come down a bit. Like I said, the game isn't super well optimized, but it does run decently well at 4K on a 3060 Ti. If you're playing 1440p or 1080p, you'll get much better frame rate. And if you're still having trouble maintaining frame rates, you can always turn settings down to high, and the game will still look really good. As you can see, load times are really good. I'm playing this game off of a standard 2.5-inch SSD with peak speeds around 350 megabytes per second, so nothing crazy. Loads fast. Alright. So, you get the idea. Performance is pretty good. We're playing at 4K, keep that in mind, with settings near maximum on a 3060 Ti. If you're playing on something like 5500 XT, 5600, you'll probably be able to do 1080p 60. But on modern hardware, get a bit better frame rates. I do wish frame rates were better considering the look of the game, because it's not doing anything super innovative. You know, the shading isn't ray traced. The shading isn't even super high quality, I would say. The textures look pretty good, but it definitely has an old school feel to it. So I would have expected, honestly, 4K 120 with this card from something like this. I actually am kind of curious how this performs compared to the newer Serious Sam. I don't even have that. I might have to check that out at some point. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Sound off in the comments. Tell me if there's a game you want me to test on these cards, and I'll see what I can do. If you like this content, you like this ridiculousness, hit that like button and subscribe! Check me out over on Twitter, hardly_tech, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now. Bye-bye.